Hi, this is Bill Meyers with Bill's Blogs, and first off, I want to thank everyone who's been enjoying my ravings. Some of them start out on Facebook, and we're also supplementing it with some live stuff now too. In addition to my mentors column, this is a series of experiences that I've had. I call it Bill's Blogs. This one is interesting. It's about the first song that I actually got recorded. And in some of my other stories, I've mentioned my father. He was my guiding light and the best man I've ever known. But he cursed me with a simple phrase he lived by and preached to me, and that was that your word is your bond. Okay, and I hear that in my head far too often. I've tried to measure up to his high standard, and at times it led me into some difficult situations. This was one of them. Anyhow, most folks probably don't know, that I was a classical organ major with a piano minor going into college. I got a playing scholarship. And I really believe it helped me become an arranger, because organ's more of a linear instrument, meaning that there's independent parts played on different keys, and also you're using your feet. And so I think it helps someone think more independently as opposed to just grabbing chords, playing parts that way. So while at DePaul University, where I was, I made a lifelong friend. His name is Paul Wilson. And I grew up in a lily white suburb, but I didn't meet anybody of color until college. He was the first African American that I met. And he turned me on to all kinds of things, and we are still wonderful friends today. He turned me on to jazz, blues, R&B. Paul was and is an uber talented musician, and he also introduced me to a group of young African American musicians that helped me in a number of ways: singers, songwriters, and I demoed my songs at studios near DePaul University. Afterwards, after I joined Gino Vannelli's band, I was also helped by someone by the name of Jerry Wolf, who really enjoyed what he'd heard on my first demo tape and then wanted me to finance a second one. He wanted to finance it for me and do some real production, give it real production value. So both of these people helped me early on, and I want to stress this. It's really hard to do it by yourself. So when somebody offers to help you and really comes through, treasure that and thank them. Give them all the credit that is deserved. Anyhow, Jerry managed to get my demo tape to 5 songs to various places, and in 1978, I was spending a lot of time in Los Angeles. I was staying with friends and in between tours with Lou Rawls. I received a call from Harvey Mason, amazing drummer, and was a hero of mine. He worked with I'm forgetting Herbie Hancock for his album Headhunters, and I was hooked on Harvey after that. It turned out that he was recording a solo album, and he wanted me to be part of it. And I became, like I say, a fan from hearing his work already. And so he told me that he loved my demo, and he wanted to cut a song from it on his new album. I was overjoyed. He told me that I could play, arrange, and solo on the song, and it was titled Here Today and Gone Tomorrow. The musicians were like all amazing all-stars. I was blown away when he mentioned it. They were all A-list musicians. Harvey was on drums, Stanley Clarke was on bass, Lee Ritenour was on guitar, Paulino DeCosta played percussion, Bill Champlin, who later joined Chicago, was the lead vocalist, also was the co-writer of After the Love Is Gone. And shortly after this, I got a phone call from Maurice White, leader of Earth, Wind and Fire, and he wanted me to come out and write with him for his upcoming I Am album. And we hit it off, co-writing Can't Let Go, and he introduced me to another mentor of mine, and that was David Foster. He he wanted to co-produce an album with David on me, and I was just overjoyed to hear this. About a week later, Maurice asked about also cutting 2 songs from my demo, Where Do We Go From Here, which I'd written with Ross Vanelli, and Here Today and Gone Tomorrow for the new album. And I explained that I'd given Harvey that song, but I asked if he could also cover it at the same time, and he said, no, unfortunately, we don't do that. Earth, Wind & Fire never covers any song that anybody else does. So, as I said, my compass, my honesty compass comes through my father, and I called my dad. I explained the dilemma, and he heard me completely out, and he followed that with a minute of silence, and then he finally said, well, did you first give Harvey your word to cut the song? And I said, yeah, I did. And then there was this long silence followed finally by my pop saying, well, you know what I would do. So a couple of days later, David sat me down and said, do you realize the opportunity you're getting here? I mean, they're cutting 2 songs already, and we're thinking of taking that song and possibly opening the record with it. And you should explain, this to Harvey and ask if, maybe he could cut something else of yours. And that sure made sense, but I was young and naive, and I thought, well, geez, I've already got Can't Let Go, and Where Do We Go From Here? And they're getting cut. So maybe I could really show my range off by keeping this with Harvey, making new friends that are top musicians, and I wouldn't offend anybody. So ultimately, I kept it that way. And the session with Harvey went great. I tracked with the musicians above that I talked about, and I got to play the solos, and I arranged the strings and horns for it. But in the meantime, Where Do We Go From Here, which again was co-written with Ross, was recorded, and I got to do the arrangement, but it was dropped at the very end of the record when a deal was made for publishing, and it was reached between the writers and Maurice White for the song After the Love Is Gone. They finally gave in, and he got some publishing, so it ended up on an Earth, Wind & Fire album, something like 10 years later. It was on an album called The Promise, but it didn't make it on that one. So the final analysis, Harvey's Groovin You record was the one that I had, the first cut. Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. It was reviewed extremely well, but it sold about maybe 35,000 copies. And I Am, released the same year, has easily sold over 3 million copies worldwide. And I certainly would have liked to hear the Earth, Wind & Fire version of that song. But these are the kind of decisions you make. And I didn't necessarily check all avenues out completely. But I think that in the final analysis also, it was great to be able to have so much control over the song that we did cut with Harvey.